And a reminder, Bet Online, the world's most trusted betting platform. It's your number one source for all of your sports betting action. Baseball season is rolling. We got the NBA, the NHL playoffs. Bet Online has got more ways to stay in on the action with all the latest odds, the news, the scores. And the big key with Bet Online, you can do live in-game betting while the games are being played. So you miss tip-off, you miss the puck drop, you missed the first pitch, no big deal. Bet Online gets you live in-game betting. It's the largest selection of odds on everything from MLB, NBA, NHL, UFC. It is the best online source for all your sports wagering info. And remember, in between games, head over to that Bet Online casino, all the top Vegas style games, including poker and live casino action. Bet Online. The game starts here. Very special edition of Bleav in Chargers. Awfully excited. An all-time favorite, a special Charger joins us. Someone you know real well, of course, helped with that march to a Super Bowl. Back in the mid-'90s, a Pro Bowler, and somebody that everybody knows. It's not just Natrone Means. It's Natrone Means business is what people talk about when it comes to the Chargers. And, Lo, you were kind enough to set this.
Great setup, and then you were poof, you were gone.
Yeah. You know what? I 100% apologize for that. I'm not the most technical savvy guy in the world.
I'm in line. Me too. Me too.
Yeah, 100%. You know, if my kids were here, I would give them my phone and tell them to fix this for me. But you know, nobody's here, so I'm all on my own. Old man in technology. I apologize.
I know. I'm the same way. I'm in a hotel, you know, I'm out working and I'm like, okay, money save me. So money's always coming in to save the show and save the day. So money, with that, I'm going to let you kind of lead this. Natron, still pretty in the face and slim in the waist. What do you have for Natron? Let us know what the big Trine can tell us about this young kid out of his place, and he knows him up close and personal.
Yeah, no doubt, Coach. I think just kind of set the foundation for us. You know, drafted with their first round pick. Certainly seems like it fits. You know, Coach Harbaugh, you played with them on the Chargers. So just kind of walk us through how you would describe Omarion as a back.
You know what? Omarion Hampton, obviously he's a great running back. Not only is he a great running back, but he's a great person. I was fortunate enough, you know, to be a part of his recruitment, you know, when he was a senior in high school, and he was a guy who we held in high regard. And, you know, he was in our backyard here in the state of North Carolina, and we did everything that we could to get him here and to be a big part of our football team. And, you know, once he got here, he for sure did not disappoint. Big O is a process-driven guy. I mean, I think you look at the improvement that he had from his freshman year to his junior year. His freshman year, he was a 400-yard season guy. Followed that up with 1,500 his junior year, and then 1,600 his senior year. Just, you know, kind of shows who he is in terms of his approach to work, the importance of getting better on a daily basis. And, you know, obviously when the lights come on, he's a freaking machine. I mean, he's going to be a guy, a bell cow back that, you know, he's a 4 down back. He's not he's not an early down back. He's not a sub back. You know, he's a 4 down back. I mean, this guy can do it all. And the Chargers obviously got themselves an awesome selection with Omarion.
Hey, when you were, you know, recruiting this young man in high school, what are you looking for? You know, go through that process. You know, you played the game at a high level in the National Football League. You played in college, but when you're knocking on a young man's door and you're going to sit with mom and dad, what is it about the young man, but what it is also about a player that you said, hey, this guy has a chance just from the high school level to be a good college player and maybe a great college player, not the pros. Just what was that like?
Yeah, definitely. I think, you know, it's obviously going to start, you know, with what you see first, right? And that's going to be the physical build. And then obviously how that is utilized, you know, in terms of the game, you know, what the kid does when he has the ball in his hands in terms of, you know, is he a powerful runner? Is he a guy that has great contact balance? Does he have the ability to make guys miss? You know, does he have the ability to hit the home run, right? Because if we're just talking about strictly transitioning from high school to college, right, you look at the tape and you say, okay, is this a guy who has long and explosive runs on Friday nights, right? He has to have them on Friday nights in order for him to have them on Saturday afternoons, right, or Saturday nights. And, you know, that's the thing about, you go back and you watch Omarion's tape, right? It doesn't jump off it doesn't jump off the video at you, right? You're not going to look at his film and say, you know what, I think this guy right here is going to be a, you know, 2-time All-American, 2-time, you know, first team All-ACC guy. You know, it wasn't screaming, this guy's going to give you 1,500 yards his sophomore year and then 1,600 yards his junior year and be voted recruited as the second best back in the country 2 years in a row, and then, ended up getting drafted in the first round, right? When you look at the tape, that's not what you're going to see, but what you're going to see is a dominant runner, right? Who, has the ability to make plays, right? And is a guy that you can use on every down. And that's who he was when he came in the door. And he just continually worked until he turned himself into the best back in the country.
Coach, you mentioned contact balance in there, and it's a special thing that backs can have, and that, as important as anything else. How do you coach it? Can you coach it into somebody? Is it natural to have that? Is it size? What is it that leads to good contact balance to kind of help with those explosive plays?
You know what? I think it all plays a part, right? Obviously, Omarion's size, his explosiveness. His lower half. If you look at him, right? He looks like a Greek Adonis, right? Like he was just freaking chiseled, right? Like God said, "Let there be an NFL running." Boom, right? There's Omarion Hampton. But all of those things go into improving the overall contact balance. And of course, there are drills that we can do to work on navigating tight spaces and getting your feet up over trash, right? Emphasizing knee lift and leg drive, right? And in order to help you, when you come into those contact situations. But again, it's a big part of him was, he was born with a lot of it. There's no doubt about it. He was born with a lot of it, but he was also born with the instinct that, to understand and know that he has to continue to work to develop it. And that's something that he's done like no other.
Hey, Money, I want to kind of tie this question in. You guys can let you go first, Money, and then kind of see how you kind of set it up this for my guy here to answer. You and I were doing the draft. We talked about different running backs. You said there was Gentry out there. You saw Boise, but you said low. I believe, and some people believe, that Omarion is better. He may be the best back in the league. What led you to say that, and what says you?
Well, and I think, Coach, you can speak to this, right? For Coach Harbaugh, you hear the way he talks about Justin Herbert. You better be damn good in pass pro. You better be able to protect his guy. And that was a big reason why I thought Omarion was maybe, not to mention the physicality, the bigger back. I think about Coach. I think about Toby Gerhart at Stanford and Frank Gore with the 49ers, just kind of what he likes. To me, that's kind of what I saw in Omarion. So I guess if you don't mind, maybe starting there with the pass pro, because, man, you look at that film, and you certainly did a heck of a job letting him know how he's going to make his money in the NFL, because that's where it's going to start, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. So, obviously, as you enter right into a collegiate running back room, we talk about the things that are going to be different for you moving forward as opposed to how they were when you were in high school. And that all starts with, one, being able to protect the ball, and two, being able to protect the quarterback. Understanding that, those are going to be the things, right, that we have to focus on and develop, because, if I'm going to have to teach you how to run, then, all right, obviously I've got the wrong guy, right? We want to clean up the running skills, right, to make you more efficient in that area. But what we really want to focus and lock in on, right, is going to be the pass protection aspect of it. And because of Omarion's size, right, and because of his want to, he's willing to step up and take on linebackers, right? You can see him knocking second level guys, secondary guys, blitzing off the edge, right, knocking guys off their feet, but because he's just so big and he's just so strong. And the pass protection piece, right, is something that not only Omarion, but all the backs, right, that we've had since we've been here, we focus on. The NFL scouts talk about it. They notice it, is that when guys come through here, right, they are finished products, they are developed, and they're ready to assist, right, in all facets of the game. And we definitely excel in the pass protection piece.
What is it that,
Go ahead, Lo.
okay, what is it when you're talking about that, bro, and you're just talking about, hey, the guys, the want to, the desire. When you're coaching, you played the game, watch you bounce off of guys, watch the way that your heart, your determination, the train was coming. You wouldn't turn it down. How do you put that on your players? And what makes you say he has it? What is that? What as a coach and as a former player, what are you trying to find out, or what are you trying to enlighten, like see a guy to make him make that step from being, okay, I know I can have this guy have that want to, that's something you can't teach. What is it that you can bring as a coach and as a player to see if they have it, and to find out, can they get it?
Yeah, I think it's one, right. It's a big trust factor that's involved, right? Because as coaches, right, we're put in a position, right, to make sure that these guys right, are going to present their best self, right, on a day-to-day basis, right? So best self daily, right, is something that we focus on, right, and it's something that we hammer home. And, like I think back to like when I first probably saw Omarion, not necessarily in the recruiting aspect of it, but once he got to campus, right, and we were going through a walkthrough in the indoor, and he was part of the freshman group. So he's part of the freshman group. So, those guys are brought along slower, right, than the older guys who've already been here. So we were going through the walkthrough, and he had on some flip-flops one day, right? And we're going through walkthrough, and he's going through walkthrough in flip-flops. And I saw him just take a hand off in flip-flops, and I saw him jump cut, and I saw him accelerate. And I was like, no way in the world that's supposed to happen for a guy that big, right, in flip-flops, right? So like when I first saw that, okay, then you say, okay, right, there's definitely something more there, right? And then you watch kind of, as he continues to develop, right, over the amount of time that he's in the program, you see him going from a guy who has, recognized that, what, I'm not just a bully here, right? Because I think that, when he came in, he was a guy who was used to being the biggest, baddest dog on the yard. And the way that he got things done was just to run through people. He had no interest in cutting or bouncing or making a second level defender miss. If you got in front of him, all he wanted to do was run through your face, right? So we talk about, what do you see when you recognize, right? So now we love that, right? Then it's just a part of now, okay, let's go back, right? And let's buff these tires, right? Let's make him efficient, right? Let's clean him up in some of these areas, right, that maybe he hasn't paid as much attention to when he was in high school, right? And then we will continue to work on the overall right development. And we like to talk about developing the art of running, right? Developing the art of running. And Omarion was a great student because he did an outstanding job of taking the work, right, from the classroom, right, to the drills, right, and then from the drills, right, into team situations, right, and from team situations into live game action. And you just saw him continually getting it and continuing to get better. And I 100% believe this. I think that he's really just scratching the surface with who it is that he really can be, because even here, right, we fed him like everybody in the stadium, right, everybody watching, everybody knew who was going to get the ball, but there's still so much more that this guy can do. I think you guys are going to be surprised when you see him catch the ball, right? When you see him catch the ball and when you see him run his routes, right? So I think that, while obviously he still has a lot of room to grow, right? A lot of room to grow. When this kid puts it all together, man, it's going to be a thing of beauty.
Well, you hear us calling him coach. It's because he's a coach, man. He does it at North Carolina, did it for Omarion Hampton, going to continue to do it under Coach Belichick, who's showing up for his first year down there in Chapel Hill. Very excited about that. But, Coach, I'd love to go to something you mentioned because, man, you watch the film and there's a lot of hits.
Yep.
He likes dishing it out, man. As the kids say, he wants all that smoke. In the NFL, you know what that feels like. But the interesting thing about him is, man, not only did he not miss a game, I never saw him miss a snap. Like this dude got crushed and would just pop right back up.
Yeah, he is. He definitely did not like to come out of the game, right? He would be out there and let's say he's taking 10 to 15 snaps in a row, and obviously more than half of those are going to be carries, and he's out there on the field, man, and he's taking those deep breaths, and you're like, we got to get him one, and then you get him a break, and then he comes over and he stands right beside you. I mean, like he's like ready to go. So. He's a guy who always wants to smoke. He always wants to be out there on the field. That's just a competitor in him, right? That's just a competitor in him. So when you have a guy who's driven like that, right? When you have a guy who's driven like that, it makes it a joy to coach, because even if, and it doesn't have to always be in game situations, right? So Coach Larry Porter, right, who's the running backs coach last year, and I was the assistant running back coach last year. Coach Porter was the special teams coordinator, right? So Coach Porter would have, in pre-practice, everything that, he would have to do in terms of his special teams duty, right? So that allowed me to spend a lot of one-on-one time with Omarion. So whenever there was a special teams drill going on, or whenever there was something happening that he was not directly involved in terms of offensively, an offensive focus drill, right? He wanted to get together and he wanted some work on the side. I mean, that was him. He was just a constant worker. He's always chasing it, and he has the right mindset, right? He has the right mindset and drive and discipline, I think, to be successful, on the next level.
How was it, you came in the league, and you come in the league, you have a guy coming in the league that you practice, you coach this guy. How's it with you, Natrone? You said, okay, I know that maybe I know what you know what you can do. You say, hey,
Mhm.
but I got to go in here and take a job. I got to go in here and show. What advice do you have for him saying, okay, you're not maybe on starter on paper, but you just know the kind of effort and the effort that he's going to give you, what you went through to be number one. What advice do you give a young guy in that position where Omarion's in?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, the biggest piece, right? And obviously this won't be something new, right? But it's gotta, you've got to be where your feet are, right? And you can't be so focused on the outcome, right? So focused on the outcome that we ignore the process, right? That we ignore the process. And Omarion has been through this before, because when he came in as a freshman, he was not the starter. As a matter of fact, at the start of his sophomore year, he was not the starter. British Brooks was our starter. And British ended up, winning the job outright, right? After after two competitions in the in fall camp. He got injured Omarion's freshman year, so he missed his whole. British got injured Omarion's freshman year, so Omarion was a part-time guy, and then Omarion's sophomore year, British won the job, but he ended up getting nicked up in the first game we played against South Carolina. And that next week, Omarion rushed for 260 yards, right, and we never looked back. So the message hasn't changed, right? The message hasn't changed, right? Focus on the process, right? Don't let yourself become overly concerned with the outcome, because if you do what you're supposed to do on a daily basis, the outcome is going to take care of itself. And so it's a life that he's already led, right? It's a life that he's already led, and it's one that I'm sure he's well equipped to go through again.
Coach, nowadays people have access to so much more information than before. They can find out, how he lined up, what scheme is he running up from with a quarterback under center? Is he running a pistol? Is it shot? Kind of walk us through sort of, what this league looks like. What Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman want to run. It's power, it's duo, it's gap. Just kind of walk us through how the scheme that he played in. Is it a lot of zone? Is it some power and gap in there? And just kind of how you think you can drop him in, and just in your overall opinion as well about the way the college game is played, and maybe the jump that you make to the pros, and how different, if at all, it is for a running back.
Yeah. Well, it can definitely be different, right? But in terms of scheme, right? In terms of scheme, I mean, there's only so many different ways we can run wide zone. There's only so many different ways we can run inside. Only so many different ways we can run our gap scheme stuff, right? So in terms of scheme, right? We've had a couple of different coordinators here through Omarion's time, so he's seen a little bit of it all. Obviously, I think there'd be more zone stuff than gap scheme stuff that we have been, kind of emphasizing here in the past couple of years. But at some point in time, in his college career, there hasn't been a scheme that he hasn't been exposed to, right? That he hasn't been exposed to. And once these guys get a general understanding of kind of the nuts and bolts, the foundational pieces of the scheme. Now, obviously, it can be tweaked. It can be tweaked and worked depending on who the coordinator is and what it is that they want to do, right? So what we really, really work on, right, is hammering home a good fundamental base, right? Having a good fundamental base, understanding where our eyes need to be, right? What kind of body position, right, we need to be in when we're attacking, right? How we read things out, how we react, and what it is that we're ultimately trying to do, right? Which is key, a first level read, right? Recognize linebacker flow, right? And then be ready to react and win our one-on-one battles when it comes to second and third level defenders, right? So if you apply those things to every scheme that you can quite possibly imagine, right? Omarion has been well versed in that. And again, like I said, he is a process driven guy. He has lived this life before. He understands what it's like to go in and get it out the mud. And you can best believe that, the way that you see him attacking defenders, right? The way that you see him going about his business with the ball in his hands is the exact same approach and mentality that he takes when he's off the field, right? And he's working towards the on the field execution piece.
You know what? When you're looking at what Marion's going to bring to the table as a Charger and just in the National Football League, Natron, kind of go through in your opinion, what will be some of the hurdles? What is going to be kind of the biggest challenge for a young man to come into the league? What do you see? I'm not saying he can't do it, but what would be some of the hurdles that you see for any young rookie, especially a guy like Omarion, to come in the league?
Yeah, obviously, one is going to start with the speed of the game, right? Even though it's the same game, that we've been playing since we were kids. Obviously, once you get to the NFL, you're going to be surrounded by the best of the best. So that means that they're going to be bigger, they're going to be stronger, they're going to be faster, and the game itself is going to be played faster. So, he has to have, right? Well, all young guys have to have the ability to process quick, to be able to go out and be on the field and to not be disruptive to an offense or defense, depending on what side of the ball that they're on. Obviously, I think after that, you're going to have to go out there, right, and prove and prove that you're a man, right, and prove that you're a man. When we talk about the difference, right, between the college and the pros, right, I could probably sum it up in a very simple phrase, right. College is about making you a man, right? College makes you a man. In the NFL, you got to prove you're a man. You know what I'm saying? And you have to prove you're a man on every snap. So I think is obviously up for the challenge. I think he's up for the challenge, and based on what I've seen him do, right? Based on what I've seen him do, and based on what I know about that league, I think he's going to be fine.
Coach, would love to kind of the difference between the two seasons. When Drake Maye came out. And we know it well because the comparison that most people made was Justin Herbert, that this is a Justin Herbert style quarterback, pro ready, drop him in, just Adonis, as you mentioned earlier, of a human being. Kind of the difference between what you asked Omarion to do when he was with Drake or how it worked out for him versus this last year, because it certainly seemed like he was running to a lot heavier boxes this last year than he was the year before, unless that's not accurate, China, and what you saw from these past two seasons for him.
Oh no, definitely having Drake Maye under center, right? Having Drake Maye under center definitely gets an extra defender out of the box, right? It definitely gets an extra defender out of the box, and as a result of that, right, our ground game benefited from it. Like, there's no doubt about it. I think if you go back and you were probably to compare the time, we had with Phil Longo and then the one year that we had with Chip, right? And, I think we probably led the country in light boxes, right? And that's a testament, right, to Drake Maye and his ability, right, and the impact that having an elite quarterback has on your offense. Drake was such an eraser for us that, things did not have to always be perfect. He was going to find a way somehow, some shape, form, or fashion, right, to make a play for us. So now you remove Drake Maye from that piece, and we don't have a first round overall quarterback, right? We don't have the number 3 pick, under center for us, right? And that 100% changes some things, because now you go from a situation to where, okay, those boxes are light and that extra defender's out of there, to where now everybody in the stadium knows who's going to get the ball. Right, knows who's going to get the ball. They know, right, who we're trying to feed, and the fact that he came out and put up better numbers than he did when he had Drake Maye, I think obviously speaks a lot to who this kid is, the talent level that he has, and the ability that he has to positively affect an offense.
Yeah, and I'd love to add to that, Coach. The one you mentioned, Drake Maye under center. Does it matter for a back if you're running pistol, if you're running out of the shotgun and standing in the hip pocket of your quarterback, or if you're 7 yards deep and your quarterback's under center? Like, just the mechanics of that and getting used to that, because we just very rarely see it in college anymore, right? Guys sitting under center and kind of handing the ball off anymore.
Yeah. I think it changes some things in terms of steps and footworks and footwork and maybe some nuances, right? But it definitely changes some things. But it was something that we did hear some. Obviously, we didn't major in it. It won't be a foreign concept for him, but understand that when he gets the ball in his hands, I got a feeling he's going to know what to do. It don't matter what angle you give it to him from.
Well, we certainly, you've given us a lot of time here, Coach. So last one from me here. Lo may want to get one more in, but last one for me is two parts. I want to talk about Natrone here, man. Like coaching, why'd you decide to get into it? Just sort of your passion for it, where you see this thing going. And second, of course, now you're working with a guy who's arguably the greatest football coach ever. What's it like so far under Coach Belichick and how things are going out there?
Yeah. Well, for me, once I retired from football, I had an opportunity immediately to get into coaching, and at that time, I didn't think it was best for me. Right, I didn't think it was best for me at that time. So, I kind of searched around and tried to find some other things that I could do that I thought that I could turn into a career post football, and eventually, just came to the realization that what, this is what it is that I want to do. I want to be involved in this game. This is what I want my career to be. And the biggest reason for it, right? And the biggest reason for it is because outside of my immediate family. Some of the biggest influences in my life were my coaches. And that goes all the way back, to when I was a young kid, and it really doesn't matter the sport, right? It really doesn't matter the sport. I can 100% say that, I'm nowhere near this seat right now had it not been for the coaches, right? Had it not been for the coaches that I've had and the impact that they've had on me. Again, not just during my playing days, but, since since my playing days have obviously ended. And for me, it's about helping these young guys out, right? Giving them an opportunity and pouring back into them, right? Pouring back into them. So hopefully that once they're done with me, right, they're better off for the experience, right? They're better off for the experience, and they have that pay it forward mentality, right, to make sure that they bring somebody else along with them.
And how is that experience with you when you're a coach that now you're coaching for a guy you played against, a guy who knows you very familiar? Was that relationship like, okay, you guys talk about old rivalries? How was that with Belichick?
You know what? It's like the way that this whole thing unfolded after the bowl game, and we're kind of just kind of waiting to see which direction
Right.
things going to go. And there's all this even but before the bowl game, when the chatter starts to build that hey, Coach Belichick may be coming in here and getting this job, and then you go from, oh man, that's not going to happen, to it actually happening, and then you're like, blink blank, what I'm saying? It's real, right? What I'm saying? Now it's real. And sometimes I find myself as we're having like staff meetings, like just kind of sitting back and like, man, if you'd have told me this time X amount of years ago that I would be sitting in a room with Coach Belichick, listening to him talk ball and watching him coach and having a chance to be a part of his staff, I'd have probably told you that you were freaking crazy. But it's a master class every day. Right, it's a master class every day, and I'm just grateful, to have a chance to be a part of it.
Wow. Hey, what was it when you told him, hey, Lo wants me to come on the show? He's like, oh, I don't know. He said, I don't know if I'm gonna let you go. Did he say, I don't know if I'm gonna let you go on Crazy Lo show? What happened when you asked him?
Hey, listen, he was like, let's. Hey, look, he was like, I'll get back. He said, I'll get back. I'll let you know. I'm sure he had to do some vetting.
Hey, let him know and tell Coach Belichick I said thanks, man, and tell him, hey, I tried to call him up, man, to try to win a Super Bowl, and tell him I'm still mad at him. He didn't bring me on the team.
Hey, look, man, you got to come down and see us, man. He's very big on having the former players come through and talk to the team, man. And, obviously toughness and physicality, man, is something that we preach around here. So, who better?
There you go.
Who better else to bring the message than Lorenzo Neal? Let's go.
Exactly. We love it. We love it. Well, congratulations on all the success, Natrone. We certainly appreciate you taking some time here with us. The Charger fans, as you can understand, you know what it means to have a back in this system, just the lineage of running backs here, and arguably the greatest of all time in LaDainian Tomlinson. You helped him lead him to a Super Bowl, the Chuck Cecil era. I mean, it's just, there's always been great backs, and we're darn excited to have Omarion here.
Yeah. Definitely proud to be a part of it. I tell the people around this building all the time. I think, especially since he got drafted by the Chargers, right? I think Omarion Hampton was born to wipe my name off of every record book, every accomplishment I've ever had, be it North Carolina or be it Chargers. I think his sole purpose in life is to erase my name every freaking record book that I may possibly have a chance to.
For you to say that, though, that's pretty impressive. It's coming from you, Natrone, because, bro, you did it. And for you think this kid has got that type of skill, money, that's said some big words, big shoes covered.
Hey, look, I got one more for you, and I'm gonna leave you on this one. So we played Florida State this past year, and O just went off, had like 5 touchdowns, had an unreal game. But our SID, our sports information director, kind of kept track weekly of what record Omarion would break, you know what I'm saying, during that game. So we're playing Florida State, right? And he gets to the point where he's 7 yards away from passing me the all-time rushing list, right? So the SID comes down, and he's like, "Okay, Omarion's about to pass your record." And I looked over at the OC, and I was like, "Hey, man, you think we can just go ahead and get him out the game and just let me for like one more week? Just let me hold it for one more week. We got this one in control. We can go ahead and sit there and go." Everybody got a laugh out of that
one. Well, that's you know what, though? That's the beauty of it, Coach, is the two of you are connected now, at North Carolina and at the Chargers. And your name will always come up when his comes up, and that's a beautiful thing of it.
Yeah, definitely. Proud to be a part of that one for sure.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, brother. You're the best, brother. Love you, man. I'll give you a shot for sure.
All right, man. You guys be good.
All right, there he goes. Coach Means. They're doing it down in North Carolina. Remember, rate, review, like, all of it. Spread the word. Special edition of Bleav in Chargers this week. We'll be back again next week with me and Lo to break it down. But that was awesome.